Studio with us, we've got the South African National Editors Forum, SANEF, who have condemned the altercation between Jessie Duarte and political senior reporter for eNCA, Samkele Maseko. The comments made by Duarte have been criticised as she accused the journalist of, among other things, and I quote, having the habit of intimidating everybody, a habit of making people feel you are the lord of the media and wanting to defend freedom of speech that you never fought for. So discuss this further. Let's chat to Kate Skinner, who's here in studio with us. Kate, thanks so much for sitting by and listening. And I know that you were listening to Samkele talking as well. Give us your reaction. He sounds like this is a very emotional time for him.
Yeah, I mean, he sounds exhausted. He sounds, as you say, very emotional, and I think that is a very serious situation because obviously we want, our upcoming young journalists, to basically feel that they can ask all the questions that they need to ask, and that citizens can get those answers. So I do think that it is humiliating to have somebody, in a very public way, tell you that you intimidate everybody, and also to sort of say you're just a journalist, which is very undermining. So, I mean, as SANEF, we've basically said we're very happy to meet with the ANC to discuss this further. We've actually said, well, because the statement that came out from the ANC was saying that it was a very problematic altercation, and we're saying, well, please explain from your side, what is it that was problematic, and we've also said we want to discuss this further in terms of obviously election coverage broadly. So for us, the issue is that we want journalists to feel free to ask all the questions that they need to ask. And as we're saying, it's an election period. You have to ask hard questions. That's your role as a journalist. Yeah. And we don't want journalists to feel intimidated and to feel that there are such no-go areas. That's hugely problematic because then citizens aren't going to get the information that they need.
Even though, and now I'm taking on the side where the ANC did say, and Jessie Duarte did say, do not ask those kind of questions. This is not what we're here for. If you have those questions, you ask them to the spokesperson. I'm not going to be addressing those. Now, I mean, what are the rules around that? If they've set the boundaries and said, look, we're not addressing that, I am talking about this, and that's it. Do you abide by that, or what do you do as a journalist?
So my sense is that, as a journalist, you'll push and you'll ask the questions, and obviously it's the ANC's right not to answer those questions. So there's always a bit of push and often, questions can be quite fierce. So the journalist was absolutely in his rights to ask the questions. She was in her rights not to answer. But for her to then get into lecture mode and to start to say the things that she said, I mean, from our side, that was very problematic.
Okay. You could see, and as I asked the first question to Samkele, that this was not obviously an isolated incident. You could see that this was a bit of a build-up and there's a strain on the relationship there. I mean, it doesn't take a lot to see
pick that up.
I mean, that is, I mean, again, do we need to take that into context? Because, I mean, everything is in context. There's obviously something more at the root here.
Yes. So, I mean, clearly they've got a very difficult relationship. And ultimately, from our side as SANEF, what we're saying is that we want a cordial relationship between political parties and between journalists. Because, as you're saying, that kind of hostility is problematic. Because what happens is that we then don't get the information out there that we need to be getting out. In fact, all this discussion around, journalists and all the problems that we're having now really are stopping us from actually getting to a whole lot of questions around, land issues, issues around the party lists, issues around the economy. And in fact, that's what we should be discussing during the election period.
Yeah. Just finally, the closing note with Samkele was a very telling moment where whether he's going to continue doing what he does is in question because he just doesn't want to go through this. The intimidation of journalists and journalists actually maybe walking away from the job is a big problem. This is not what we necessarily want to see happening. That is a threat to democracy in itself.
Yes.
Something like that, I mean, how would SANEF react to that if you actually see journalists start walking away because they can't face the intimidation? And this is not the first time that we've seen an incident like this. In fact, there's a video clip circulating. I think it was also by Jessie Duarte towards a report, I think it was from another media organization, CNBC, giving this journalist a lecture on camera as well. This surely can't be right.
No. And I mean, as SANEF, it's one of the biggest issues for us is threats to journalists and intimidation. And we're certainly going to fight against that. And we have been throughout the election period.
Let's leave it there, Kate. Thank you very, very much for joining us here on the programme. Update us, I imagine, on the meeting that takes place between yourself and the eNCA editors. Is there any legal recourse for Samkele at this point? Or do we need to still wait and look further?
I think we need to have further discussions and we'll see what unfolds.
All right, let's leave it there. Kate Skinner, thank you very, very much for talking to us. There's also another story that's unfolding in Alexandria.